Are you already on Wikisana?
I warmly welcome you again to our format Natural Medicine. Nice to have you back. I have invited a wonderful interview partner today. Alexandra Kotthaus is again with me, Director of the Biomed Center in Sonnenberg. I would like to talk to her about the topic of carbohydrate cravings. If you have a few question marks in your head, then it's almost a bit like me, but we'll get to that in a moment. Stay tuned, it's going to be exciting. See you soon. Hi Alexandra, how are you?
Hello, Alexandra.
Nice to have you here. You're laughing at me.
No. Just have to smile a little.
Okay. Today's topic is carbohydrate cravings. First of all, you are a specialist in general medicine, psychiatry, and psychotherapy. In this context, you also deal with health issues from a completely different perspective. Carbohydrate cravings. Yes. What's the deal with the term? I've already introduced it. Some of you probably have question marks in your head about this English term. You're going to explain it to us now.
Actually, the term craving comes from the field of addiction. Craving is someone who has an addiction. There are many people who have carbohydrate cravings. I thought we could talk about it and normalize it. There is this trend at the moment that protein and fat are the best thing you can eat. It's widespread. I sit there and explain to the patient how to eat. Then a 75-year-old lady says to me, "Where do I get my protein from?" There, and there too. Ah, okay. What I notice on the one hand is that most people don't even know where protein is contained, let alone how many you really need. Carbohydrates are currently being demonized globally. How it was done with proteins for a long time and how it was done with fats. But we are not able to learn from the past. First of all carbohydrates are demonized and the fats and the proteins are also rehabilitated, and I am now committed to the fact that the carbohydrates are rehabilitated. Yes, what is carbohydrate craving? It is this: I am so hungry for carbohydrates. I need something sweet now. I have to have substance or so. Yes, well, some understand steak underneath, but some also the sweetness. Generally speaking, more women than men, and women who also have hormonal problems, and we had that somewhere else now, maybe not in relation to the carbohydrate, and ADHD, for example, or autistic children, or disabled people. They also often have an abnormal demand for sweets. Sometimes the environment gives them then also sweets, but that's not what I mean. How you should satisfy this craving, but also not through restriction. That's actually the worst thing you can do.
So you said it comes from the lack of hormones?
If you have hormonal problems, then it can also be because of that. It doesn't have to be a deficiency, it's usually more of an excess. I also had a little discussion on the weekend with hormone deficiency in women, and then I said, well, I have explained before, we find xenoestrogens in baby urine and in all teenagers in 30 European countries. So it can be assumed that also the menopausal woman tends to have too many estrogens, namely from the wrong ones. And then there are also the people who really get food cravings that are aggressive, or at least become annoyed if they don't get something sweet now, or the concentration goes away, are tired, otherwise can't work any further. So why are in hospitals not rare in the station rooms? So where the staff comes together, bowls with sweets around. There are quite a few of them. There is this nurses' health study, where you then noticed a little bit afterwards you actually wanted to study nurses on their health, in relation to breast cancer, because you assumed that nurses must live particularly healthy, but actually they even live particularly badly, because of stress and nutrition, and yes, and so it has. It's not about, no, it's not just hormones, it's also other things. And if someone really gets cravings and hunger attacks, then he can be hypoglycemic at the moment. It doesn't have to be hypoglycemia really, intensely in the sense of a diabetic, but enough that it changes the mood and that he gets hungry. And what is then sometimes the case, is that these people are no longer able to burn fat. So you can't overcome this feeling of hunger and burn fat, which the liver then makes back to carbohydrates, so that the brain is at peace again. And there are also people, if you then put them on a low-carb or ketogenic diet, they won't last 3 days and there are always more of them. Okay, so that means it's in a certain way it's also a liver problem. Yes, a liver metabolism problem. The liver regulates a lot with sugar build-up and breakdown, and I do even more work. So many people don't even know that they are on a ketogenic diet have a normal blood sugar level, that they even, if you do that more than 4 weeks, rise above the normal range. As I see, you don't either. No, exactly. And if I'm a woman, I really want to get to the end with her liver and her adrenals, then I prescribe you a low-carb diet, best with intermittent fasting. I am now amused by your facial expression.
Well, I imagine that now.
Yes, because the liver has to do more produce carbohydrates. The brain is not without carbohydrates. The brain wants carbohydrates and now finds ketogenic bodies, which, by the way, also all 3 ketogenic bodies are acidic, also not so funny. And that's why I sometimes won't break a lance for the carbohydrates. And what is also not so known, all carbohydrates, even the bad ones, even the white sugar, brings first of all the stress level down. Yes, and that's why so many people are gripping in stressful situations to sweets, because it helps in the short term. If I take the wrong carbohydrates, then I get out of the vicious circle. But if I take the right carbohydrates, then I get out of the vicious circle. And so it is with a lot of things in nature. If I choose the natural variant, I have a health benefit. If I choose the unnatural variant, it goes further down.
Including side effects. What are healthy carbohydrates then?
What do you think healthy carbohydrates are?
We will certainly find it in plants.
Centopunti. What do you think? Trust yourself.
Healthy carbohydrates in plants, HM. I have it now just pretty empty, although of course
So where is sugar in it?
in vegetables or
So yes, I'll say in which natural food is sugar.
fruits any case, but it is, the fructose is always in the criticism. But it's natural sugar, natural fructose. Bad or good?
Thank you for the assist. Of course fruit is healthy. Yes, of course fruit is healthy. And my patients don't have to control themselves how much fruits they eat.
Oh, thank God.
That's how all women react. That's why my ladies also lose weight happily, yes. And they lose weight despite fruit. How does the whole thing come together? The one thing is, if it's really about losing weight, or getting the craving under control, then it also depends on the combination in which you eat it. But at that moment you are not yet able to regulate. Then you may also eat a dry fruit. But then rather combine fresh fruit and dry fruits than with nuts. And because the nuts are not so easily digestible, I don't know who knows. But to make them more digestible, you could also put them in water first. Then an enzyme is activated, which then splits such a substance. Then you could dry it again, and then they are easier to digest. Nevertheless, they remain more difficult to digest than fruit and dry fruits. But fat increases insulin resistance, not fruit. So fat docks to the insulin receptors and increases insulin resistance. But if I eat vegetables, even fruit, or maybe wrap the banana in lettuce, then I also lower that again, for example. But the trick is simple. You get out of this trap with the craving. And that with fructose, that's the way it is. The fructose itself, the artificial one, is incredibly harmful. Incredible. Because artificial fructose is being foisted on us. Also, for example, in conventional cut bread from a plastic packaging, it is contained as a technical aid, as an ingredient, as a technical aid, because it is a moisturizing agent. And then so many things where glucose syrupy, high fructose corn syrup and so on, that is of course very harmful. And that was found out, and now they said, fructose is always evil, even the one from fruit. What do you do with it? You make people sicker, because you avoid the fruit. Now I have a child who studies biochemistry, and he knows how I tick. I have information for you, Mom. It could be totally interesting. I hope I'm saying it right now. The plants, and only plants can produce that. They produce a fructose too, 6-bisphosphate, and that supports the glycolysis. That means, fructose is not fructose, and the ones from plants also supports the sugar breakdown. And besides that, an apple or a watermelon, which is very sweet and said, no, there is too much sugar in it, is not mainly made of fructose. An average apple has 12 grams of carbohydrates. Now calculate how much you eat a day, and how many calories you need, so that's the case. And a watermelon, by the way, contains less than 30 calories per 100 grams. How much is that? Nothing. And by the way, 93% water. So it doesn't have its name for nothing. One of the rare mineral-rich silicon sources. You can really water yourself well in the summer with such a watermelon. If you still have a panic about the sugar, then you just eat a little vegetable with it.
I am so glad that you say that about fruit, because that was actually always my favorite food, in quotation marks, and it always somehow came up. I always hear, yes, fruit, this is difficult and that is difficult. And then I thought, why?
Rightly thought, you thought for yourself.
But one question about fruit, because when I started to deal with nutrition in the early 90s, Fit for Life was such a big thing.
Yes, I know that too. Yes, I did that back then too.
And then it's always called fruit from a sober stomach and fruit with nothing else to combine. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes, is that meaningful?
Yes. So if you have the feeling that you can't tolerate fruit, then that makes sense. Okay. Yes, but it's not mandatory. If you now have the feeling, I have no problems with fruit, and by the way, there is no proven mechanism behind acquired fructose intolerance. I wanted to say that too. Sometimes it's, you eat fruit as an afternoon snack after lunch, but you ate meat and the fruit is blamed, but actually all the fat from the lunch meal is still in the blood, and that's the problem for digestion problems, or higher sugar and not the fruit. I have a few diabetics in treatment right now. I'm doing one now that he has a chip in his arm with a continuous glucose measurement, and it's dreamlike how it works, and how you can see that. How great it works, despite fruit, and his diabetes, with initially quite high values. Really? I don't want to say gone, yes. But after this measurement, he is at 84% normal blood sugar values, and we can see exactly how he has combined something, how he can switch it around and how it improves again.
And there was, did I understand that right now, was fruit a game changer or?
With the diabetic it is still. So he gets a nutritional concept. It's not just about fruit. But I don't forbid them and it works, and they can also eat dried fruits and so on. But with the diabetic even more than with others. So the combination is just important, and also what you eat otherwise, of course. You also have to eat a decent portion of vegetables and also green leafy vegetables. But there is also a book that is only about living exclusively from salads and fruit. That is then even for me at some point a bit radical. But there are worse nutritional recommendations. So you really eat large quantities, and you have to say now. So if you eat a whole head of salad alone per meal and a kilo or 2 of fruit, then you get all the nutrients you need. But we're talking about such dimensions. Okay, yes, but it was still a very, very interesting lecture, and then I just found out for myself, actually out of a lack of time. I had salad and watermelons at home, and then before the sport, I didn't dress it yet. Just washed the melon, cut it up and ate it before the sport, and somehow found out that it was good. It gave me energy, it filled me up, it didn't burden my stomach, and we just do that more often now.
I am happy, that sounds very nice, and I'm also happy with the fruits, that I don't have to have a bad conscience when I combine it with something, because you say as long as there are no problems, so noticeable, although I'm always in doubt, do we actually feel all the problems that we make with food?
No, so if you ask like that, no, because our body does a lot in the background that they don't even notice, because not every person is equally sensitive. But I just notice while in the past the patients, even when I started with biomedicine and advised something else, were sitting in front of me on the second appointment, and then, when will I be able to eat normally again? Yes, good day first of all. So that's how it was. It all worked out nicely. My joint pain got better, my cramp too. But I don't eat like that anymore. That was very often, and I almost never have that now. I only have that with people who really love their cheese, or whatever for other reasons, yes. Or who would like to eat that. Or now I had a lady last week. I had a lady who asked on the second appointment, yes, I would still like to eat cheese. And now she said on the third appointment, that was not a young woman, she said I could celebrate eating and cooking again, namely, I have now been able to resolve my belief sentence, eating makes you fat, and I have fun cooking again, and trying new things, and I have fun eating again. Because I don't get fat anymore, and I bought a belt a few months ago, and I have tied 7 holes tighter, and I'm happy and I'm fine, and I say yes, I don't do it with suffering and sacrifice and discipline. That's what we have discussed here today. That is one of the main tricks, that I don't poison the carbohydrates, don't poison the combination, and of course also outside of the fruit there are a few others. You can also eat potatoes. Of course not as a French fries. We're not talking about health anymore, please. But I don't poison it, and that is especially for women. They are so happy, yes. Such an important building block. And then I had a patient yesterday, who is now coming to us for 2 weeks, and who is on a very radical diet, which is actually not that bad, and her healing practitioner then put her on an extreme low carb, almost ketogenic diet. Anne is allowed to eat certain types of meat, and nuts and fats and so on, and then I say yes, you are eating a lot of fat. I don't eat fats. And then they told me they eat that and they eat olive oil and nuts and meat and a little vegetables. And yes, if they put it that way, it's probably a lot of fat. What do you say? I don't feel good. I can't stand it anymore, somehow. I can't do it, and that's often that I hear that more and more, and that also from young men. I have to train. I need protein. That is so high, and we have lost the measure for the amount of protein and carbohydrates that we eat, because it is so propagated with certain food combinations. I have all the essential amino acids, and in 1950 the people ate an average of 45 grams of protein a day. In the blue zones where the 100-year-olds live, they eat an average of 45 grams of protein a day. They have 1 or 2 days a month. Then they come to 60 grams, and we usually eat at least 70 grams. It is 120 to 130 grams of protein per day. And what are proteins? Made of amino acids. And what are fats? Made of fatty acids. And the people are now in the primeval time, also not with oil presses, walked through the area, yes, and have lard oil, so that came to me last. The comparison actually is olive oil, something like white flour. It is a byproduct. We have lost the measure, as with so many things, also to the oils and fats, and also to the good ones. And everything that has grown, that has a cell, so green leafy vegetables, is quite similar to our cell. Why is it that? Because for us the O2 is produced. It is even up to this molecule group, where the O2 is produced, and where we convert our O2 into CO2 in the body, that are even in the leaf, and with us the same molecules. Only with other central atoms, magnesium and iron is exchanged there, but also there it is the same, and a leaf is also built up with a cell membrane that consists of lipids. Phytosterol, that is the plant variant of cholesterol, so, and proteins are also in such a plant, otherwise it would be so muddy on the ground if it would not contain any. Then I also say incredibly gladly, what do elephants eat? Giraffes and cows. From plants. But from which plants? Yes, I know we have a slightly different metabolism. We have to eat all day. They also weigh a multiple of us. Then you have to eat a lot more of it. We can also eat other things. That is okay. But the basic substances for life I already have in the green leafy vegetables. And if I combine the green leafy vegetables with a few things from our everyday life, with fruit and vegetables, then I also come to all essential amino acids, and can then also produce proteins. And to form new collagen, I don't necessarily need to swallow collagen or protein, so you know what you need: vitamin C. Yes, where do you get the vitamin C from? Even better, from fruit than from vegetables, and most people, and biopharmacists, don't know that. Fruit is an exception, on both sides. But on average most fruit contains a little more fiber than vegetables. And even without you now eating extremely fiber-rich things, if you eat a kilo of fruit and vegetables a day, you get to a very good amount of fiber.
It sounds totally good for me, because that's something that I've been doing for many years. Just the main group of my food is fruits, and I'm glad you celebrate it like that.
Hört sich total gut an für mich, weil das ist etwas, was ich schon viele Jahre eben einfach, was die Hauptgruppe meines Speiseplans ausmacht, Obst. Und ich bin froh, dass du das so feierst.
And if the mother used to say to the child, eat more fruits, then she was right. Yes, that's true. And we demonize it. That's not okay. We hurt a lot of people, a lot of women and children. And if the children get a spelt bar instead of a piece of fruit, that's not an improvement. Children don't have to eat permanently, please, or out of boredom, or it's okay, when they are at 5 meals with a normal rhythm. Children, small children, yes, okay, women, with carbohydrate cravings too. And then at some point, if you do it right, with the diet that runs out, then you come back to 3 meals. Yes, that should be enough. So who says that yes, that's the standard, or that's exactly? But you can always ask if that's the right thing for everyone. I don't say eat non-stop. But who has a real problem with fat change, who will suffer between two meals if they are too far apart when they get up at 6 a.m.?
So das Richtige ist, ne? Ich sage nicht non-stop essen, aber wer ein richtiges Problem im Fettstoffwechsel hat, der wird leiden zwischen zwei Mahlzeiten, wenn die zu weit auseinander liegen. Wenn sie um 6 Uhr morgens aufstehen.
At 12 the first meal, then 6 hours are usually too long. Then you almost have a heavy breakfast to get over the 6 hours. And if you have a light in-between meal, then after 3 or 4 hours the stomach is usually empty except you have now eaten a lush, very fatty, or very protein-rich meal. Is just the question of whether it is really worth striving for that the stomach is longer than 4 hours full. And then a light meal is we go again from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock, then that is digested again. Until 12 o'clock, and then you eat again on an empty stomach, and then it's okay for me too, when I eat at 1:30, and I have to eat at 7 o'clock in the evening, then I usually have around 5 o'clock. That's true, so by now it's okay. But I still have most of the time around 5 o'clock, so I could still do my homework until I eat dinner. I still have one in my head. So not one, I still have a question in my head about olive oil, because you said before that I don't say olive oil is bad. I didn't want to say that. I just wanted to sharpen my consciousness that it is actually a byproduct and that you might use it in small quantities and not that it's not just because it's a good oil. It has a free letter. I used to do that and then I noticed that I left it alone. It was very enlightening. So it is basically just to keep a certain average for everything, right?
Ja, also es gilt grundsätzlich eben einfach bei allem ein gewisses Mittelmaß zu behalten, oder?
No, I can't either. It's more complicated. It's more complicated. I always thought that it's easier, it's new. So it's all about simplicity. But I can't answer that because average is not a defined term. That's right. It will be different for everyone if I say yes, exactly. What is olive oil? What is the average? No, you can't say that. It also depends on where someone is with their metabolism. It is just very individual, and what we just do, especially when it comes to micronutrients again and again also emphasize on our transmitter. It is important to look at it very individually and not just blindly to supplement, because one says that it is good, the other says that it is good, or the other says that it is good. I think we agree on that, right?
Ich glaube, damit sind wir uns einig, oder?
Yes, that's important. Okay. If you now have the feeling as a viewer that I would be well off with my carbon dioxide craving, with my addiction potential that I may have there, where can you find yourself? Where can you find yourself? Where you can get advice? Our beautiful center is in the beautiful Schwulbrunn, and we are several doctors there and have a very warm team, and we have a lot of therapy options available. If only supplementation or nutrition is not enough.
Mehrere Ärzte und haben ein sehr herzliches Team und es stehen eben schönerweise relativ viele Therapiemöglichkeiten zur Verfügung, falls mal mit nur Supplementation oder Ernährung nicht ausreicht.
Where can you find yourself on the internet? Our website is biomed-sonnenberg.com. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. Then the viewers also know that they have a certain orientation, where you can find yourself, where you can contact you directly. I think it's great your holistic way of working and above all with the passion with which you approach it. I also know the doctor with Thomas Rau, and yes, it is also impressive the story that is behind your med center, and of course also the story that is behind Thomas Rau. And I think that's just great and unique. Thank you very much for your work, and I'm looking forward to the next conversation with you. Thank you, dear viewers, for being there, and yes, maybe you are also affected by carbohydrate craving. Then you shouldn't just leave it like that and should take a look at the background of what is wrong with you, and best of all, make sure that you are no longer dependent on anything. Everything that is addiction is just basically not healthy.
Nicht mehr abhängig sind von irgendetwas. Alles, was Sucht ist, ist eben einfach grundsätzlich nicht gesund.
In this sense, except you are addicted to our shows that are of course always welcome. I am happy when you turn on again, and wish you all the best so far. Be careful, loving and attentive, and I'm looking forward to next time. Until then, see you again.
Ich freue mich aufs nächste Mal. Bis dahin, auf Wiederschauen.